All right, everybody. Good morning. Welcome back. Happy Monday. We've got a new position to move to today. It's a position that's going to take us a couple days to get through. And honestly, it's a position where I don't know how Seahawks fans should be feeling about this one. We're talking about defensive tackle, which kind of encompasses the entirety of the interior, but for the purposes of these videos, we've been differentiating between the nose tackle and the defensive tackle. And the Seahawks clearly have a need at nose tackle. Defensive tackle is a little bit harder to justify. You've got Leonard Williams, who's coming off an incredible year where he probably should have been in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. You have Byron Murphy, who you just spent a first round pick on, and is playing nose tackle just so he can get on the field right now. And you've also got Jarran Reed. You got Jarran Reed, who, I mean, he might be a nose tackle in this defense, but he might not. I don't know. And if he's not a nose tackle, he's a three tech. So if you're talking about three techs, it's pretty darn hard to justify spending any draft capital, much less high draft capital, on another one. You're probably crowded as is. And while the defensive line is a position where you can do a lot of add-on and it can help you a lot to have great depth, there's also a real issue with diminishing returns. When you have a player as good as Leonard Williams, you want him on the field. You don't want Leonard Williams out there for 25 snaps a game. You're not going to get your money's worth, and he's not going to get his play's worth. So I don't know if this team is going to realistically look at adding another three tech at this point. I think they're pretty much capped out. They've got Leonard Williams making big bucks. They've got Jarran Reed on a contract extension. And Murphy's not making huge money, but it's first-round pick money. So even on that layer, I don't know. But we're going to be exhaustive here. We're going to go through the names regardless. And we're going to keep in mind that strange things can happen, right? Jarran Reed might be a one and done. And Leonard Williams is getting older. It's not completely ridiculous to suggest, even if I seriously doubt it. So let's start with the first rounders. There are three of them. And we're going to start with Mason Graham, who is clearly the top dog at the position. Little bit undersized, almost 300 pounds, 6'3.5". Very short arms, so right away we've got a little bit of an alarm going off. He's got small hands as well. Only did his bench presses at the combine, not very good. Not that I really am worried about that. Every big board had him in the top 4, except for Walter. They had him 13. And Walter tends to be kind of doing their own thing, to be perfectly honest. So the aggregate has him at 5th. And you can see the production over the last couple of years. It's good, right? For a Michigan defense that has mostly been really good. Last year they slipped a bit, but they lost everybody. 80 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, over 60 pressures. Really good PFF grades. So clearly the man is doing something right. So the positives with Mason Graham are pretty clear. He's very fast out of his stance. He rockets from down in his three-point stance to contact almost immediately. Hard to deal with offensively just because of that. He's really good at reading and reacting to the play. He reads where the run play is going and gets to where he needs to go to disrupt it. So read and react stuff is great with him. He's got a high motor at all times. No one questions his effort. Really good at holding his ground. Against single blockers, at least, he's really good at holding his ground and not allowing a run lane to open up on his watch. He understands leverage as well. He knows how to get low. He is a little bit taller than the average defensive tackle, but he understands how to get low. He has good hand placement when engaging with linemen for the most part, so he's also got some technique and skill in that area that's pretty strong. Now, his short arms are going to be an issue. 32-inch arms is not what you want to see from a defensive tackle at all. That will limit some of his effectiveness. Double teams push him back and out of the play. So he's not really going to be able to do like block absorption. There are players out there that can eat a double team and hold their ground. Mason Graham, not really one of them. He doesn't have a lot of pass rush ability. He doesn't have a great bull rush. He doesn't have great pass rush moves. He gets by, right? Over the last couple of years, he's given you 2 to 3 pressures a game. It's not bad. but I don't think that he's particularly over the top as a pass rusher. And you can see how few of those pressures turned into sacks. 6.5 sacks combined over the last 2 years. That does at least make you think. And I mean, he played with some killer teammates in college, right? You not only did you have Kenneth Grant on one side of him, but you had Stewart on the other side of him. And don't forget about all the other great defensive players on that Michigan team that he lost from 2 years ago. So he's got to play with some really, really awesome teammates in his career at Michigan, and that's probably helped him. So I think he's going to be really effective. I think he's going to be good against the run. I think he'll be good against the pass. I think he'll be able to provide a lot of value in the NFL. And I'm pretty darn confident. I don't see how this guy misses. But I have to be perfectly honest. I don't know if I see anything extraordinary here. Is he ever going to be as good at rushing the passer as Aaron Donald? Absolutely not. Is he ever going to be as good at stopping the run as Christian Wilkins? Absolutely not. I don't see anything close to that. So it's a little bit weird for me for this guy to be a almost consensus top 5 pick when I don't know what this guy's path to superstardom is. I can see a path to him being very good, and that's about it. So I think he's a top 10 guy, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. I couldn't quite rally around this one the way a lot of people are. I don't view him as being some super blue chipper that has Warren Sapp upside or anything like that. I think he'll just be a solid, effective player in most areas. Next up is Walter Nolen of Ole Miss, 21 years old. Little bit tall and a little bit lean, 296, 6'4". Also kind of short arms as well, so a little bit familiar with the guy we just looked at, Graham. Big boards, they mostly put him in the first. Walter has him in the third. Again, they march to the beat of their own drum. The aggregate has him late first. Good production the last couple years. A lot of plays in the backfield. 23 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks, 50 or so pressures, 35 last year, which was really good. So he stepped up big in 2024. Walter Nolen brings a quick trigger at the snap. He goes from stance to contact very quickly, and it's hard for offensive linemen to deal with him because he gets up on them so fast. He's got a little bit of bend to get underneath blockers and get to the quarterback. He does actually have a little bit of like pass rush bend that you look for, the ability to like duck underneath the blocker. He might have some ability to do one-tech stuff as well. I think that his ability to cause chaos in the middle and suck up blockers is pretty credible. His hand usage is also pretty good. I think he knows how to use his hands well. He's got high effort at all times, and he's a good athlete, and he shows that off when he shoots gaps. The way he slides off blocks, the way he gets lateral movement and uses reactive athleticism to shoot gaps and make plays is very notable. Now, he is small and he has short arms, so I don't think he'll be as good against double teams as he was in college. In college, he did good against double teams. Doubt that holds in the NFL. He is still going to have to develop some legitimate pass rush moves. Right now, he depends mostly on his raw athleticism. He is going to have to develop some pass rush moves. He doesn't have a very diverse rush package. But I like him. I don't fall in love with him. I can't fall in love with him. I think he'll be good. I think he'll be valuable on any defensive front. Again, this is a guy who I think has a pretty high ceiling, or excuse me, low ceiling, but a high floor. I don't see superstar potential here, but I do see a very good player. So late first rounder seems fine to me. Not that much beyond Mason Graham, honestly. Like, I don't know. To me, what's the difference between Walter Nolen and Mason Graham? There's a difference, but I don't think it's as big as the big boards paint it. I don't think Mason Graham is supposed to be a top 5 pick and Nolan's supposed to barely be a top 30 pick, personally. I think they have more in common. All right, the third guy for this video, the final guy, Derrick Harmon of Oregon, 21 as well. Tall, but he's also got mass. 313 pounds. Long arms, 34 3/8, big hands, so he's a big dude, and he tested well, not that he did a lot of testing, not super quick, but 4.9540 at 313 pounds is crazy good, so he's a great athlete. The first 3 big boards have him in the first, or the first 4 big boards have him in the first, actually. and then the Draft Network and Walter have him in the third. I think they're just a little bit behind the times here. Because Harmon, after that combine, definitely had to move up, and they haven't moved him up yet. The aggregate has him at the very back end of the first round. Production over the last 2 years has been good. I think 2024 was his only year with Oregon, but you can see 11 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 55 pressures, took big steps forward as an actual disruptor and playmaker. Just generally speaking, he's huge. He's very wide, he's got long arms, he's very squat. He is so big. It's really hard to deal with him. Like, he's just taking up so much space in the middle. It's hard for offenses to handle him. He's also pretty good at shedding blockers because he's got long arms and he's got some moves that he can use to shed blockers. He's got the arm over, he's got the swim. He's got stuff he can do to shake blockers reliably. He punches really well. His punches hit hard. They have knockback. They're really good at, like, just stunning the offensive linemen so he can shake free of them. I think he'll fit into any defense. I think he can be in a 4-3. I think he can be in a 3-4. So I don't think he'll have any issues slotting into whatever defensive scheme you have. His pass rush production was big in 2024, showed big strides there, and showed an ability to maybe be that truly all-around really great player. Now, his limitations are mostly athletic. His short area quickness is a little limited. His ability to have, like, reactive athleticism isn't really there. He's got tight hips. So his opportunities to really just react to what is going on in front of him and quickly go get the play, not great. He doesn't always cash in on his opportunities to make a play. Like, 55 pressures and 5 sacks is a little bit on the disappointing side. His height is a disadvantage with his lack of leverage. He does tend to play standing straight up, and that does hurt him. And double teams are going to cause him trouble. He is big and strong, but he's not so big and strong that he can absorb a double team. So I think this is the guy with high potential. I think Derrick Harmon is the guy who could become like a Pro Bowler. The size and skills strike me as something that could be very special in the NFL. Now, I do understand why he's not being valued the same way Graham is. Graham has a higher floor. Harmon does have some disappointment potential when you consider his how tight-hipped he is and his lack of reactive athleticism. It's more straight-line athleticism. But I think Harmon, if he can harness his gifts, is going to be special in a way that even Mason Graham can't be. So I'll go middle first round. I'm not going to go quite as high as Graham, but I think it's actually pretty close. And you could talk me into Harmon being better than Graham, honestly. You could. I don't know. I just look at this and I go, this guy could be a Pro Bowler. This guy could be maybe even an All-Pro. I don't think I can say the same for Mason Graham. All right, let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys later. More 3 techs coming up. Go Hawks. And we're moving on through the draft stuff, baby.